because in past I found that it takes us so long that you open up your eyes after an hour and we still haven't gotten to the first item of the agenda. I very much appreciate the process so far. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Councillor Spies. I also would
quite quickly, because in past I found that.
Thank you. I would like you to move, before we move on our agenda, I would prefer us to move right away to item C1, and that is the inauguration of our new councillors at the Garden Route District Municipality. You know what, let me provide you with the reasons for that. Before we note the provisions of Schedule 1 of the Code of Conduct for councillors, I think those councillors should also be welcomed first. So before we move any further with our agenda, let's do the inauguration, and then we move with the rest of our agenda. I do not expect them to consider the correctness of the minutes because they were not here. But may I then please ask that we move to that item. C1 is on pages 60 to 72, and it's the inauguration of new councillors to the Garden Route District Municipality. It's Councillor Busak, Councillor Kritzinger, and Councillor Machila. We've already learned that Councillor Harris has admitted his application for leave of absence due to medical reasons, and we accept that. So may I then please request that we proceed with that item, C1. Are we together? Just give me a thumbs up, everyone. In the chambers, I received a klomp duimpies. Baie dankie vir dit.
Yes.
Thank you. Can we move into item C1? May I then request that you're welcome. Who's speaking to me? Is it the MM?
Yes, Speaker. Thank you, Speaker, and good afternoon, the Executive Mayor and Councillors. I just want to always remind on this item that the item is on the table, that the Council must first deal with the item. The recommendations are there, 1, 2, 3. And then after those recommendations are carried, we then invite the councillors to go and take their oath. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, MM, and a good day to you as well. There you've got the recommendations that cognizance be taken of the notices that we received from the Electoral Commission. The recommendation reads IEC, but when you go to the Constitution, just for some useless information, you'll find in our Constitution it only refers to the Electoral Commission, not to the Independent Electoral Commission. But yes, let's take note of the letters that we received from the IEC, the Independent Electoral Commission. Secondly, that the following councillors be inaugurated as councillors of the Garden Route District Council. First of all is Councillor Gerald Leonard Busak. Secondly, it's Councillor Iona Kritzinger, Christina Kritzinger. And thirdly, it's Councillor Xolo Machila. May we then proceed, MM?
Thank you, Speaker. We will not then deal with Councillor Wilbert Harris, as he has submitted his apology because of sick leave. And therefore, only those 3, Councillor Gerald Leonard Busak, Councillor Ioana Christina Kritzinger, and Councillor Xolo Machila. Those 3, the councillors can deal with the recommendations, and then they can be invited, Speaker, to take their oaths. Thank you.
Thank you, MM. May I request, can I get a proposal and a seconder for this item, please? Proposed by Executive Mayor, seconder. Councillor Gerald.
Second.
Thank you. May I then request that we proceed with the inauguration? May I ask that we do ladies first, not in the order as on the recommendation, but yeah, let's do the ladies first because you are special forever to mankind and to womankind. Thank you. Would you like to?
Thank you. Thank you. welcome Councillor Kritzinga. We're about to take the oath of office now. Will you please repeat after me? I, Iona Christine Kritzinga,
I, Iona Christina Kritzinger,
Hereby swear that I will be faithful to the Republic of South Africa
hereby swear that I will be faithful to the Republic of South Africa
and will obey, respect, and uphold the Constitution
and will obey, respect, and uphold the Constitution
and all other laws of the Republic.
and all other laws of the Republic.
And I solemnly promise
And I solemnly promise
to perform my functions as a member of the Gardenwood District Municipality
to perform my functions as a member of the Gardenwood District Municipality
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So
So,
help me.
so help me God.
Thank you, Speaker. The second one is
Councillor Gerard Leonard Busak,
welcome, Councillor.
it's Gerald Leonard Busak, that's correct. Thank you, welcome Councillor. Please repeat after me. I, Gerard Leonard Busak,
I, Gerald,
Leonard Busak,
hereby swear that I will be faithful to the Republic of South Africa. Hereby swear that I will be faithful to the Republic of South Africa and will obey, respect, and uphold the Constitution and will obey, respect, and uphold the Constitution and all other laws of the Republic and all other laws of the Republic. And I solemnly promise to perform my functions and I solemnly promise to perform my functions as a member of the Gardenwood District Municipality, as a member of the Gardenwood District Municipality, to the best of my ability, to the best of my ability. Please lift your right hand and say so help me God. So help me God. Thank you so much.
Speaker, the last one is Councillor Makila, Councillor Kola Makila. Welcome,
Please say repeat after me. I, Kola Makila,
I, Kola Makila,
hereby swear that I will be faithful to the Republic of South Africa
hereby swear that I will be faithful to the Republic of South Africa
and will obey, respect, and uphold the Constitution
and will obey, respect, and uphold the Constitution
and all other laws of the Republic.
and all other laws of the Republic.
And I solemnly promise to perform my functions
And I solemnly promise to perform my functions
as a member of the Gardenwood District Municipality
as a member of the Gardenwood District Municipality
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Please raise your hand and say so help me.
So,
Nkosi kakhulu, Advocate. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to welcome the new councillors. You'll learn as we go along that we're really a tight family. And what we also do here is that we do consider the local municipalities where you are coming from. Your voices will always be heard so that we can take these joint decisions on behalf of all the local municipalities. Our role here is to make sure that our local municipalities survive. And Mr. Speaker, in the same breath, it gives me great pleasure to announce that Councillor Kritzinger has been appointed to the mayoral committee as the chairperson of the portfolio of corporate services. Welcome, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. From our side, from the Speaker's office, also Hearty word of welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. We're looking forward to your very helpful and productive participation in our council to take our district, our region forward to the betterment of our people. And we are ons is regtig geblessed. We are blessed with all of you joining us. And I really hope sincerely that you will enjoy being with us. Batupele. Here we practice people first. And if you look at our vision and our mission, and also to the values that's contained within this agenda today, if you look at those values, this is what we do, this is what we live for, and this is what we believe in. So, baie welkom. Pamkelikele. Hope I've got that right. I'm trying my level best also to speak isiXhosa. So, Pamkelikele. Baie welkom. En ons is baie bly om julle met ons te hê. En ons weet dat julle kennis, julle insig, julle ondervinding, julle ervaring in your public life, in your personal life, is very valuable, and we value you as a person and as new councillors to the garden. From our side, also hearty welcome to everyone. Thank you, Councillor
Can I
Giereke.
just raise on a point, please? Welcome to all the colleagues, and may you have a nice journey here, successful journey. We are a good council here, very respectable councillors, council respect to atmosphere in this council all the time, respect one another, treat each other with dignity, regardless of the political affiliation. So thank you very much indeed. Leadership, can I just ask Mr. Speaker for your opinion? I don't know if the mayor is going to agree with me and all the other opposition parties. Most of the items in this agenda, we have workshopped and we have discussed. Can I just call on everybody from my side? Let us not repeat and go into repetition and waste each other's time on unnecessary, tedious and all those type of processes. Let us just abide by the agenda and get to the business of the day, please. Let us be well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Giereke. Again, if you allow me, Mr. Meyer.
I support that, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Meyer. May I, with your permission, then also change the order of the agenda, if you allow us that we move.
Speaker, before you move on, my hand is up long time ago. I don't know whether you still recognize hands.
You're back in the picture, if I may say so. Thank you, for the Wilford. Somehow.
First question, do you still recognize hands?
Yes, please.
I even made it the blue hand so that you can see it.
You were removed from the screen. I don't know why, because I haven't received any resignation from yours.
Okay, now my hand is removed there. But nevertheless, Speaker, can I say something on the item that we are busy with, or you just dealt with?
You're welcome.
Okay, I also want to welcome Councillor Busak, Kritzinger and Machila. Welcome in the district. It's a complete different kettle of fish than you will find at your local municipality, because here things are moving smoothly and we have good relationships. I just want to say to Councillor Machila, who's an ANC councillor, you are more than welcome, and it will be difficult for you to follow the footsteps of the late Comrade Momiki Jacobs, but I'm sure we will have an excellent working relationships. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you, Speaker. And I agree with Councillor Giereke. Let us not waste unnecessary time on this meeting.
Amanda. Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Wilford. Can we move, please, to item C2 and C5? C2 is a conferment of aldermanship on serving councillors. The aldermanship and the elder ladyship, that is a local. We are unique. Although not internationally known as Elder Lady, we do it, yeah.
Speaker, can I just ask, Speaker, what about item 11, appointments and service exits? I think we as the ANC has got something there to raise, and I'm sure Councillor Tobeka Taisi would like to raise something there, if you allow us. Unless you change the agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Verhoeven. No, I changed the order of the agenda. I would like us to move directly to item C2 and C5. Then I'll come back to the agenda. Then after that, I'll start by item 4 on our agenda, that is noting the provisions. I first would like to deal with the conferment, and then we can proceed. Because I would love to address my fellow councillors as Elder Lady or Alderman during the meeting as well. So may I request that we then move to item C2. It's on page 73.
Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you,
Speaker, as you know, and councillors, Council has recently formalized its process in relation to the conferment of the status of alderman or elder lady to qualifying councillors. And it is with great pleasure, Speaker, that today we are conferring the first group of councillors that have applied and have qualified for the conferment of the status of aldermanship. And I would request, Speaker, that maybe for time's sake, you combine the item and the addendum to add those councillors that their applications were received late, and that the Secretary of Council, Advocate McCracken, deals with the item in the council chambers. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Municipal Manager. Are we all in agreement? I've indicated that we deal with C2 and C5 simultaneously. Can I then thank you, request our advocate to repeat? Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. The recommendations are found on page 4 of the item. The recommendation being that the title of alderman or elder lady conferred on the following 7 councillors who all qualify in terms of the criteria as contained for the conferment of the alderman, elder lady honor, and in the manner as contained in this report. The names of the councillors are I will start. It's firstly the executive mayor, the speaker, the deputy mayor, Councillor Stephen DeCris, Councillor Jolene Woolmarans, and Councillor Betty Ferrick. Speaker asked the councillors then to come.
Van der Wippen.
Yes, Councillor van der Hoffen is also on the list, Councillor. I will ask those councillors who are here to please come forward. There will be an opportunity for a photo shoot also. Our photographer is here. But in terms of the procedure, Speaker, the executive mayor will then come first and confer the award. And then after, the executive mayor will then confer it to all other councillors. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Advocate.
you. All right. And Speaker, Mr. Mayor, then open to you and the rest of
I struggle to hear what's going on there. I really struggle, like, it's a battle here.
Councillor Gerika.
Which one?
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Advocate. Can I please ask that we also acknowledge and cheer on our congratulations to Councillor van der Werven, Councillor De Vries, and Councillor Wolmerans. Well done.
Speaker. Speaker.
My apologies, Councillor Reiters. Where's
Speaker.
our deputy, Councillor Reiters?
Speaker.
Yeah. Also, Deputy Executive Mayor.
Thank you, Speaker.
I must say, I just love Top Deck. I see that, I see Top Deck, the Cadbury's, but yep, it's beautiful. You are really carrying yourself beautifully with your beautiful new hairstyle. But congratulations to you as well, Deputy Executive Mayor. It's well deserved. And all the
Thank you,
others.
Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you.
Speaker. Speaker.
Councillor.
Councillor Lichaba.
Thank you, ma'am.
I just wanted to know that I'm sure this is not the last round to apply for the elder lady and elder man.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Ntaba. I wanted to say that the Speaker's office have been requested all councillors, please, in the past, and we've also sent out reminders to all councillors, please submit your CVs. We need them. We cannot consider aldermanship and or elder ladyship without your CVs being presented to the municipal manager. It's an administrative function, and his office does the calculations on the conferment. We cannot do it without your CV. Please submit your CVs as soon as possible to our office, Speaker, via admin. My apologies. And we also need it, councillors. Please, an alderman and elder lady, I need, or the office of the Speaker need your CVs for the work skills plan. I've forwarded, I think it was Mr. Owens, that wrote an email, and I think it's about 2 months ago, also requesting again CVs from everyone, so that we can, I don't want to do an audit, a skills audit as per se, but we need your CVs also for further development of each of the council. Please do that, I really appreciate it. So Councillor Chaba, no, it's not the end. So consider the legal manager that the station will consider every application. The executive mayor is then the person that grants us this specific privilege and honor. Thank you. I hope I responded to your concern and or your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Councillor van der Hoeven raised his hand.
Thank you. I can just say, Councillor van der Hoeven, at this time, I do not have on the screen any other councillors and or faces. So if I don't see you, it's not because of the fact that I would, that I want to or that I ignore you. I just cannot see you because you're not on the screen. You are now back on the screen. I can see Councillor van der Hoeven. I can see Councillor Gosden. On my other guy, and fortunately, I've got the administration staff that also assists me. But I can just share with you those that haven't been in the chambers during the Zoom meeting. It's almost impossible to identify faces due to the fact that we are a lot of councillors in various places and spaces. For instance, in that specific committee room, I think I see Councillor Ben van Wyk. Just give me a wave so that I know that that's you that I'm talking about. I'm just sharing with you that it's quite difficult from here where we sit. When you give me a wave, by means of a show of hands, and if you press your button to speak, that I'm not able to see you at all times. So forgive me, I do not want to, and I don't ignore you at all. It's just that I do not see you, that I don't have any indication from you that would like to speak. My apologies for that. Councillor van der Hoeven, please proceed.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I just want to make it very, very clear that I never applied for this. I submitted my CV on your request and on your secretary's request, but I haven't applied for this. I appreciate it, and I really I welcome it, and I'm grateful for this. But I want to make it clear it's not because I applied for it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Verhoeven. If I said that, I immediately retract that. It's not an application, not at all. It's a confirmation, but based on what we know about each and every council. My apologies if I said application. It's not an application. It's just letting us know if that can be considered by this municipality. Thank you for that correction. Thank you, Councillor van der Hoeven. Alderman van der Hoeven. May we proceed? Thank you. I get a nod. Can we move to item 4 on our agenda, noting the provisions of Schedule 1 of the Code of Conduct for Councillors of the Local Government Municipal Systems Tax 2000? It's imperative that this Code of Conduct must be available in every meeting place of every council meeting. Now, virtually, it could be a problem that you don't see it in your home, but surely you've got the legislation. I think each and every councillor were given the, for instance, Municipal Systems Act, the Structures Act, the Constitution. For those new councillors that do not have that, I would love to provide you with that legislation so that you also have it with you, wherever you are. When you have a meeting, you can peruse the Code of Conduct in the council chambers where we sit. It's one of the things when I was still acting speaker that we arranged that in every meeting room in this council chambers, you find the Code of Conduct for councillors. Can we please note that? And all councillors, please note the provisions of the Code of Conduct for councillors. Noted. I take it that everybody has noted again the Code of Conduct for councillors. You're quite aware of it.
It's noted, Chair.
Thank you very much. Other lady, Wolmerans. Can we move to the disclosure of interest by councillors or officials? Item 5 on our agenda. Anyone that would like to declare their pecuniary interest on any item to be considered today? I don't see any hand. I don't hear any voices. I take it that nobody would like to declare or recuse him or herself during the discussion of any item. If none, thank you. Can I then move to item 6? Are we all still together? Just give me a thumbs up wherever you are. The seat in the chambers. Everybody else, are we still together? Thank you. Councillor, not really, Councillor Rihanna.
Councillor
thank you, Ms.
Reuters
Massey.
raised her hand.
Say again.
Speaker, we
Thank
have a very poor sound outside. We can't hear you clearly.
Thank you, ma'am. I moved the mic closer. It's better.
It's better, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Deputy Executive Mayor. Thank you for that. Communications by the Speaker. I would like to change the order. Again, I would first like to give the opportunity to the Executive Mayor to do his communications and after that. Will I do that? Mr. Mayor, that's fine with you. Thank you, Alderman Boyson. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker, before you move on, can I just ask, the sound is poor, and the reason is there are other microphones open apart from yours.
Can I again request that we all stick to the rules? If you do not speak, please unmute yourself.
Can I try again? Councillor van der Woofen, does it sound better?
Mr. Mayor, it sounds better, but you can ask Councillor Mandesi to mute his microphone unless he wants to say something.
Is it his dogs which are barking? On a light note, Mr. Speaker and the councillors, thank you very much for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, we're going to deal with what we are busy with on a daily basis, which is the pandemic, COVID-19. Mr. Speaker, we are really reaching our peak as the garden route. And our plea is that we really need to do what we've been asked to do. Social distancing, we need to wear a mask in public spaces, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, it's also a plea out there to the parents, because we know within a matter of a week, or just over about a week, the schools will open soon. So, Mr. Speaker, then the opportunities to be affected will be much higher, which means that our figures will then also change on a daily basis. We're also aware, Mr. Speaker, and councillors and officials, and to all the people within the garden route, that some of us have lost loved ones already, and our condolences on behalf of the Garden Route District municipality as well as the council. We will not forget the issues which we are dealing with. And Mr. Speaker, also something that goes with COVID-19, which we can't separate, is the economy. The lockdown regulations, unfortunately, does have an impact on the economy. We also we appreciate the fact that the economy has also been opened up a little bit. But Mr. Speaker, also as in our case, in particular, the garden route, we disappointed that the George Airport has not been given the thumbs up for workers, because we know there are a lot of people are working in Johannesburg who normally used to commute on a weekly basis. And we'd like to say to national government to please reconsider and to take into account opening the George Airport. And to the George Airport, as our strategic partners, we will assist in punting their case to make sure that we do open up the airport to make sure that our economy gets back to its feet again. And also lastly, Mr. Speaker, we all know that it is so unfortunate that whilst we're dealing with the COVID-19 and its challenges, gender-based violence still continues on a daily basis. And really, Mr. Speaker, I take my hat off to you. You never forget mentioning that we as men, we now really need to occupy our rightful spaces in protecting women and children. And on that note, Mr. Speaker, that the Garden Route Men's Parliament is back in full swing. We're really getting all the men together so that we can deal with the issues at hand. And I'd also like to say thank you to, there's an establishment called Love George. It consists of more than 120 religious leaders. They're also on board in dealing with this matter. And also we've agreed, they have not just finalized it yet, but we've also agreed that the Love George is now going to spread its wings to the whole Garden Route. And they might also even change the name to Love Garden Route. And even in that group, we as men, we're determined to deal with the squash, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alderman Boyce, Executive Mayor. Thank you very much for that. Yes, and I think we had a very good men's parliament. It was a surprise to me that, you know, having that men's parliament virtually on a Saturday morning, we still had excellent input from various men. And we even had a lady from NISNA that provided us with some clarity regards the assistance that the South African Police Service grants to those people that really come to them, you know, to lay some charges. So, yes, thank you very much, Executive Mayor, for your input. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you, Rihanna. Please assist me. Thank you.
Councillor De Vries and then Councillor van der Hoeven.
Thank you, Alderman De Vries, and then Alderman van der Hoeven. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker.
Sorry, Alderman. Before you proceed, let me just say good day to everyone. We are on YouTube. So those that are watching, thank you for watching. And hopefully you will also learn what excellent things are happening at the Garden Route and how we do things, in this region. Thank you, Alderman De Vries. You know, you're now getting me really confused. I used to call you Master Councillor.
Thank you, Speaker.
Excellent. I'll stick to Alderman De Vries now. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker. Okay. No, thank you very much, Speaker. The Executive Mayor referred to the George that airport is not open. We open the economy. The George area is very important because of business. Captains of industry is staying in George and Pret, Nyasa in these areas. And at this stage are very restricted in terms of travel to Gauteng. But Speaker, yes, we must support the call.
Speaker.
But what I would like to know, whether the Executive Mayor can give us the reasons.
Speaker, Councillor Wolmerans, sorry for the interruption. Councillor De Vries is breaking up. We can't hear him properly.
Thank you, Alderman Wolmerans.
Let me start again, Speaker. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker, the question I have for the Executive Mayor is that do we know the reasons? Now, I've missed the press conference. I followed some of the comments on the platform of the Department of Transport. And actually what is being said, the Minister have outlined the reasons why the George Airport did not qualify to open. Do we know the reason that we can support the George Airport? Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman De Vries, for that input. Alderman Gericke. Alderman van der Hoeven first, and then Alderman Gericke. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. I actually wanted to say the same, and I'm not going to repeat what Councillor De Vries has said, because we agreed that we want to speed up the meeting. I just want to say it's because of their own wrongdoing that they did not open. So we must do something that the Joe Airport do comply so that they can open, because this district needed.
Thank you, Alderman van der Werven. Alderman Gericke.
So nice when you call us Alderman.
You deserve it.
It has been many years in service.
You deserve it.
Colleagues, also congratulations to you all that have been bestowed the honor of aldermanship.
Sorry, Speaker.
Thank you, Alderman Gericke. I hope it's not a point of order, but can those that would like to come in, can we please wait? Councillor van der Werven. My apologies, Alderman Gericke.
Sorry, Speaker, I just wanted to mention also our condolences to Mr. Tufile from Oudtshoorn, who passed away, and to all his loved ones, and to the whole Oudtshoorn municipality, and to all other, I think there are now 18 or 19 cases in George. I'm not sure, you can rectify me, not in George, in the district. So there are 19 condolences that the ANC is expressing for all those who lost their lives.
Thank you, Alderman van der Werven. Please proceed, Alderman Gericke.
It's a huge concern that the George Airport is not open. There are many people that are employed at the airport, and many people, business people and travelers, that are dependent on the service to travel between cities domestically, but also internationally, connecting flights and so on. As we speak, we do not have the reasons, Mr. Mayor. That's why the Minister of Transport has not opened up for George. We presume that it is due to non-compliance issues at the local airport. And if that is the case, then we want to call on the management of AXA at the airport to make haste to implement those measures, or to comply with the lockdown regulations, so that this airport opens up ASAP, because it is much needed. We are in full support of opening the airport, and therefore we call on the leadership to comply with the issues. I want to get to, in terms of your speech, just the issue of Love George. Thank you for touching on the issue and the services rendered by Love George. We have read about them. We know people that are involved with Love George, and they are doing an excellent service to the community of George. They have big plans, as far as I understand it, to expand, and it is with appreciation that we note that you mentioned they may expand into the district also. And in terms of their core functions, it's about social upliftment, integrating communities, leadership, and so on. We are calling then on you, Mr. Mayor, to have a serious look at the mission statement of Love George, their policy documents, and also the representation of that organization. And if you have done all that, we would love to challenge you, because these type of organizations are much needed in our communities. We would challenge you not only to keep it on meeting level and so on, but also to contribute resources to this organization. Whether it's going to be financial resources or some other resources, but we need NGOs, NPOs in our communities that do this type of work in our communities for upliftment, social upliftment. That also, as I understand that this organization is also busy traversing on the ground of bringing about transformation and reconciliation in our communities and so on. They are doing a powerful work. We urge you
to have a soft heart towards this organization, but also then urge them to make that organization, the top structure, more representative for the entire region. Not only representative in terms of color, but also in terms of gender and disability status, so that we work together with them. Thank you very much indeed.
Alderman Gericke. Alderman Boyson, Executive Mayor, would you like to close your communications?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to all the councillors who have given input. I've taken that to heart, Mr. Speaker, and this is exactly what we will embark on. We will assist George Airport where needed, and with the humanitarian assistance in terms of these NPOs and organizations, we will definitely partner with them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Executive Mayor. I'll keep it quite short from my side. Communications by the Speaker, I believe in always in good news. So to Councillor May, that's having a birthday on the 3rd of July. It's Friday, if am I correct? Councillor May, that's your birthday on Friday. And our new Councillor Machila. You know, your birthday really indicates your commitment to serving your people. Your birthday is at 24/7. So 24/7. Congratulations to Councillor Machila and Councillor May. I think the Executive Mayor and everybody else already covered me. So can we proceed to the next item? Thank you. Communications by our municipal manager, Tatimondi Strato.
Thank you, Speaker, and good afternoon again to the aldermen and elder lady, councillors, colleagues. Speaker, today is the last day of the financial year, 2019-2020. So today we're closing all the books. We will be proceeding with our audit processes, and we hope that everything that council had planned would come out as to achieved. It's also important to note, Speaker, that tomorrow we're starting the last financial year of this council's term. And naturally, that year becomes very volatile, and simple things become complicated. And I hope the spirit that has been had in the garden over the years would still prevail. And as management and administration, we hope to assist and pledge to assist councillors as we move towards the last year of the term of office of this council. Let me also, Speaker, on behalf of the administration and on my own behalf, congratulate and welcome all the new councillors that have been sworn in today, and also congratulate those councillors that were conferred with the status of aldermen and elder leadership today. It is indeed gratifying to see such progress in our institution, and I hope even more councillors will be able to attain the same conferment. To the new councillors, we are here to serve. We stand ready to assist you on any matter that you may need to be assisted with. Thirdly, Speaker, on COVID-19, there is a report that will be presented by the delegated chairperson of the District Command Council, Mr. Gerard Otto. However, Speaker, I think I should mention, as the Mayor has alluded to, that the province is reaching its peak very quickly. That is the Western Cape. And our region has not escaped the uptake of the numbers. And today in the Western Cape, we're reporting between 50 and 60 cases per day. In terms of our institution, Speaker, we have had 4 confirmed positive cases in Garden Route District Municipality, 2 at roads, 1 at community services, and 1 at corporate services. I understand, Speaker, that most, or if not all of them, have already recovered or are about to be confirmed as recovered. There is no one that has been hospitalized for COVID-19 from our staff. And we still continue, Speaker, to maintain the necessary protocols for the COVID-19. We have provided all the necessary PPEs, and we're engaging the unions and the labor in the right forums that have been established on any matters that may come up that can affect their performance. We have invited a specialist from the Department of Health. We had a talk on Monday in the MENCOM to reassure the management and everybody that sits there about the protocols and what needs to be done. We'll be doing that to all the staff, especially the frontline staff that must be there on the ground, tracking and tracing contacts. Indeed, it's a very fearful exercise, but we want to reassure our staff that we're doing all in our power to ensure that we protect them. As noted, Speaker, in our region, our colleague from Oudtshoorn Municipality, Mr. Tofile, has passed on. May his soul rest in peace. This week, Speaker, we are using this week to assess our state of readiness and preparing for the next intake in the staff that must come back to work. Up to this far, Speaker, we have allowed only 1/3 of staff to work. We will review and are reviewing that in line with the assessments and preparations being finalized this week. So we might, on the 6th of July, implement a revised strategy, but that will be informed by our state of readiness in terms of ensuring that nobody is exposed, that we keep the social distance, that we provide necessary PPE, and that all of our staff members are protected. With that, Speaker, thank you very much. Those are my only announcements. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Municipal Manager. And thank you again to you and the administration for conducting yourself in such a professional and such an efficient way, and your commitment and what you do for us in this region and this municipality. Herman, ek sien jy kyk ook vir my from communications. You keep us up to date with regards to what's happening every day. And there's lots of hard work that you do all the time, 24/7, by Councillor Matila, always. And we love you for that. And we really appreciate what you're doing. Please convey our sincerest thanks from this council to everybody that's not listening in or seeing this by means of Zoom. That we really convey our sincerest appreciation and thanks for what you're doing for this Garden Route district and our council as such. Thank you, MM. Can we then move to the approval of the minutes or the consideration of the minutes? The consideration of the minutes of the council meeting dated the 27th of May 2020. 27th May 2020. You'll find it on pages 9 to page 43. From my side, I've only got small corrections to the minutes. It's very technical. One is from the communications by the executive mayor, refer to the Garden Route and not to the Western Cape, because, you know, that's becoming a hotspot. It's just a small correction. And then the Afrikaans version, it refers to the staatsverordening. It's the reglement van orde. My apologies for that erge Hollandse Afrikaans, maar it's the reglement van orde that organizes our meeting procedure, or that arranges that. Just a small correction. That's all from my side. Of the minutes, technically speaking, again, let me convey my thanks to our secretariat for doing a splendid job. And we also salute you for the minutes and what you do for us, every one of you. Thank you, Rihanna, Avera. Thank you, Advocate. Thank you, Trix. For those that I do not see here, thank you so much for that. Can I please leave input on the correction of the minutes? The correction, as we all know. Can we proceed? Proposal and seconder. Thank you, Alderman Gericke. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can we then proceed to let's take cognizance, item 10, of the minutes of the Mayoral Committee meeting, pages 44 to page 55, 44 to 54. 1954 is some of our birth years, if I read it correctly. I'm not going to mention any names. Ek is the model 55, so dis 'n jaar voor my. But yeah, there you've got it, the mayoral committee minutes of the MACOM. Find it on page 44, page 54, 44 to 54. We take cognizance of that. Thank you. We then move to item 11, standing items, appointments, service exits, and labor relations information for June 2020. You find it on pages 55 to 59 in our agenda. Thank you, Councillor Chesi. Thank you, ma'am. You must just keep on pressing the button. You can move it a bit closer to you if you don't mind. You can. There's always a helping hand from Rihanna. Thank you, Rihanna. Skuld you nog 'n chocolate?
Thank you. On page 56, under employment equity, there are people that have placed them. So what we need to know is that, number one, why are they placed to this? Two,
Speaker, we can't hear Comrade Tobeka.
Thank you, Alderman van der Hoeven. Ma'am, can you move it? We are making a plan. A boer maak 'n plan. It's not being racist. We'll try.
thank you, Speaker. On page 56, under employment equity, there are two placements there. So what we need to know is that, one, why are they placed to these departments? Two, what will happen to the positions they were occupying? Or are you creating vacancies for other people? Lastly, which procedures did you follow? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further input on this?
Can I respond, Speaker?
Thank you. Municipal Manager, is that you?
Yes, Speaker, that's me.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Speaker. In responding to Councillor Tis, thanks for the question. Speaker, just to note that Council has just approved the minutes of the previous meeting of Council, where a revised org structure was presented to Council and approved. Part of that revision of the org structure was a movement of positions and incumbents from the Office of Political Office Bearers to disaster management and to corporate services. So the procedure was that there was a review of the structure and those positions were moved. The incumbents of those positions were then placed in terms of the placement policy in those positions in line with the council resolution. Secondly, Speaker, there are no new vacancies that will be opened in the Office of Political Office Bearers. Those positions are now dead in that part. So there is no vacancy open for anyone. It has actually resulted in the reduction in the number of staff in the Office of Political Office Bearers. So that was the process, Speaker. It was an open process that was taped within the council meeting of 27 May, where the new organizational structure was approved. And that's the outcome. And as you know, Speaker, it's not a new process. It was undertaken before, in line with the org structure and in line with the placement policy. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Municipal Manager. Any other input? Executive Mayor, I've noted you. May I ask your notice? Can we just get some other input before you respond to that, please? I don't see any hands and I don't hear any voices. Thank you, Executive Mayor. Alderman Boyson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The MMF covered quite a broad area in terms of the placement policy and how we take these things through the LLF. Mr. Speaker, then the other thing is that this will always be an issue where we'll always ask questions because either you know a person or you don't know a person. But one of the things, Mr. Speaker, which was the major in terms of us adopting a placement policy, we had complaints and questions that most of the time in the past, people would work here and positions will become available. There will be a competitive process, and somebody from Gauteng would perform better and get the position. And we had to look at that, and we had to look at empowerment. We had to look in terms of upskilling, and this has give birth to the placement policy as well, Mr. Speaker. So if we deal with these matters in terms of upskilling and whatever, so it is a first priority, Mr. Speaker, and it leads to these kind of placements happening to prevent the complaints from the unions that we take people from outside when we do advertise. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Executive Mayor. No further input. Proposal and seconder.
The item is only for noting, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. That's loud and clear. Seconder, we take note of it.
Yes, Speaker.
Thank you, Councillor Scarpspees. Can we then move to the next item, please? Section A. We don't have any reports from the Speaker. It's contained in the agenda, but it's not my report. That's the execution of council resolutions, which we agreed upon in the strategic session. I think it was 2 years ago, proposal that we've made. And now we see it. So we don't just talk, we do stuff in the garden route. So let's move to section C then. Reports from the office of our executive, of our municipal manager. We've done the inauguration, C1, we've dealt with that. We've dealt with C2. We're now on C3. The report is the adjustments to the service delivery and budget implementation plan of 2019-2020. Dis die veranderinge op die dienslewering en begrotingsimplementeringsplan vir 2019-2020. Ngicelo ikepiso dongilelwaniso lonikezelo wenkonzo kunye nesixwayiso sokwimiselwa kolwabiwomali luka 2019-2020 pages 77 to 79. Awethu. Thank you. That is the report. Any input? C3 is the BIP. If none, can I get a proposal and a seconder that we thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's your baby, if I may call it like that.
I propose we go with it, Mr. Speaker.
Because ik Executive Mayor Alderman Boysen, Tati Lose. Yabulela and Tati Lose.
I'll second that, Speaker.
Alderman Alderman Wolmerans, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. Can we move to section D then? It's a debt write-off report 2019-2020 for quarter 4. You'll find it on pages 98 to 105. Thank you, Rihanna. Is there a hand? Municipal Manager, Atimondi Strato.
No, Speaker, we didn't do C4 yet.
Oh, I thought I had a proposal and a seconder for that. Can we move back to before report on irregular, unauthorized and wasteful expenditure, pages 80 to 98. Thank you, Rihanna.
Speaker.
Thank you, Municipal Manager.
This report is from MPEC, and I would request, with your permission, Speaker, that the chairperson of the committee presents a report to Council. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you so much, Municipal Manager. Councillor Lichaba, would you like to further enlighten us on this, on your excellent input and report?
Yes, thank you, Speaker.
Kelly,
I here present the report on the irregular and unauthorized and fruitless and wasteful expenditure identified in 2018-2019 financial year. The committee has sat and the committee went through on the reports, and therefore we present recommendations as per the report. I'm sorry, I am scrolling down.
No, thank you, Councillor Lechaba. I really wouldn't recognize you at all, but sure, the picture that I see on the right-hand screen is really pleasing. Just give me a wave. I really appreciate that. But thank you. You may proceed. Show my way.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, ma'am. Thank you. Please.
Yes, I therefore present it to council.
Thank you, Executive Mayor.
Speaker, there are so many other microphones open, so I think that's where the disturbance comes from.
Not yet. Now, Councillor Alderman van der Werven, thank you again for that input. May I please request again that please unmute yourselves. It's causing a disturbance. Councillor Lechaba.
Yes, Speaker.
You done?
Yes, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lechaba. Thank you, Executive Mayor Alderman Boyson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to Councillor Lechaba. It is a tough seat that you're in, and there will always be praying eyes in these kind of items. And Mr. Speaker, under the circumstances, I must say that they're doing a sterling job under very difficult circumstances. It's always uncomfortable to deal with this. And most of the time to people outside, when they hear unauthorized, irregular, the first thing that comes to mind is corruption, fraud and corruption. But in this instance, and it's also because of the stigma, Mr. Speaker and councillors, that in other parts of the world and sometimes in other municipalities, it goes with fraud and corruption. But in the instance of the Garden District municipalities, it's all circumstantial, Mr. Speaker, and we appreciate it. And we know that our dream is always to get those amounts to as little as possible. And in this instance, I'd like to propose that we go with the recommendations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Alderman Boyson. Thank you, Executive Mayor. Again, thank you very much, Councillor Lechaba, for sterling job done. Well done.
Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Mariana.
Councillor De Vries raised his hand.
Thank you, Councillor Alderman De Vries.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm raising this question. In fact, I gave myself homework and I haven't done that. But just in terms of number 4, in terms of the recommendation, it is unauthorized expenditure. Should we not approve that? Because by writing it off, we are not approving that expenditure is going to remain unauthorized. So normally for the procedure for fruitless, irregular, normally we will write off, but when it comes to unauthorized expenditure, we actually should authorize that expenditure because it was not part of the budget. And I'm asking that question just in terms of that I might not be correct also.
Thank you for that, Alderman de Vries. I've noted Alderman Gericke.
Speaker, the unauthorized expenditure, the process has been handled by the Municipal Public Accounts Committee. If I understand it correct, am I right, Speaker? By MPAC. So once it arrives on the desk of MPAC, they deal with the issues, they interrogate, they investigate. And then after that, the very same information or reports become part of your internal audit committee again. If I'm right, Advocate Sinakaya. Internal committee, they bring this information under the attention of the Auditor General again. And then the Auditor General will issue his final report on this, and then it comes back to council again in terms of what they decide, Mr. Mayor. And then I think we should act on the recommendation of the Auditor General in terms of what he reveals in his management letter with regard to those expenditure. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Gericke. I don't know, CFO, would you like to come in? I just see your face. Yep. Is that a nod or is that a no?
Yes, Speaker, I can provide input if my colleagues are happy for me to do so. Maybe to answer Alderman de Vries's question, the MFMA section 32, section 2A says in the case of unauthorized expenditure is either authorized through an adjustment budget, which we are not doing now, or certified as irrecoverable and written off by council. So unauthorized expenditure is either covered by an adjustment budget or it is covered through the impact process of investigating the reasons and then the recommendation to council to write it off. So in my view, that recommendation number 4 is correct. And then to Alderman Gericke's question, these, and Tembani could actually perhaps answer better, but in terms of the AG's view, that you will note that most of the items on the irregular is due to the fact that the AG had certain views on, for instance, piggyback contracts and BAC compilation, etc., and then they declare it as irregular. It is then up to council, according to this section of the MFMA, to take it to a committee to investigate, which is then impact. It is reported to the audit committee, and all the matters that the AG raised during the audit was thoroughly discussed with the audit committee as well as impact during the process of the annual report and the oversight report prior to its adoption in December 2019. But in terms of this process, where internal audit did the investigation, reported to impact, where the deliberation took place, and then this report then follows to council. It doesn't go back to the AG again, other than if council was to write off these expenditures, it will be included in the annual financial statements in a note indicating that council wrote it off. Thank you, Speaker.
Speaker, can I also, Councillor Lichaba?
Thank you, CFO. I also see that, would you like to come in or are you fine? Then I'll proceed to give to Councillor Lichaba and Councillor Alderman Boyson. And I would like to make a proposal from the chief, will allow me, but after you.
I can come in, Speaker, if you may allow me.
Thank you, MM.
Thank you, Speaker. The CFO is correct, Speaker. If you look at the report, the body where the internal audit is discussing the unauthorized expenditure, they note that the total capital expenditure for the 2018 financial year did not exceed the total capital budget. What happened is, Speaker, if you take the biggest amount, which was the 12 million for the roads department, remember the issue of the Gazette and the adjustments budget. that ordinarily would have been done, where the Gazette comes late after the appointed time of the adjustment budget. That was the issue. However, that did not affect or cause any over expenditure in the totals in the budget, as all the expenditure was covered in savings and other things. It was just an interpretation, but because AG had stood its position, we then said we'll bring it to council to actually write off the expenditure which they said is unauthorized. However, you will note that this is necessarily book entries in terms of unauthorized. It's book entries. It's not that there was expenditure that council did not necessarily approve in all its processes. But we have said, well, let's take the AG and follow the process. As the CFO is saying, this has gone through internal audit. It has been presented to MPEC. It is now before council for finalization. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Municipal Manager. Alderman Boyson, the Executive Mayor indicated that he's covered. May I request that you bear with me as the chairperson
Speaker,
of Councillor Lichaba?
I just wanted to add, just to give comfort to council, that when we were looking at these reports, we were also able to ensure that the preventative measures and controls must be in place. I think that is one of the criteria that AG always looks at, is that when all these things, they have been in terms of books, they are being recorded, what are the steps that council and management is able to take so that there is no recurrences. So we were able to look at that, and also part of our report, we're able to say each and every item, it had a preventative measure in place. I just wanted to add that so that council can know. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lichaba. Rihanna.
Councillor Spies raised his hand.
Thank you, Rihanna. Councillor Spies.
Thank you, Speaker. I'd like to congratulate MPAC, the entire committee, and its chairperson on some sterling work. Must have been difficult, but I am satisfied. I would therefore like to second the proposal that we go with the recommendations, Speaker.
Thank you, Councillor Spies. May I ask for some further input, Executive Mayor and MM, perhaps if you can respond to my input, if you allow me to do that. I'm a firm believer that when you make a resolution, that you never ever refer to what's contained in the report, but that you draft your resolution to reflect the specific information that you refer to. I'm now referring to recommendation 5 that says that the preventative measures, and thank you, Councillor Lichaba, for your input on that. It says that the preventative measures as indicated by MPAC must be implemented, and its implementation must be monitored by management. That resolution is perfect. I'm thinking about, as from the Office of the Speaker side, that this council always needs to do oversight. It's not about distrust. It's got nothing to do about that. It's about the obligation that each and every councillor and this council must do is oversight. And I say that with all respect. So what I would like to say is that, is it possible and is it preferable? We receive reports, and we will receive a report on the execution and the progress regards the resolution that we will make and that we've just, that all the speakers have just alluded to. When that report serves at council, indicating the progress on council resolutions, you will then find that that resolution will appear there. That's the preventable measures as indicated by impact. You will not find it in the resolution when you see that report, when you do your oversight role on the execution of resolutions. But you will see those preventative measures in the resolution in future to do your oversight role when you consider that report. So my plea is, and my suggestion is may we agree with, if the executive mayor, MM, and everybody else agree that we in our resolution 5, that we quote those measures that needs to be implemented. Please correct me if I don't make any sense, but that will make it much easier to know exactly which preventative measures are being presented by impact to council, which then becomes a council resolution on those measures that needs to be implemented, and not impact, but this council that concurs or that agrees or that makes a resolution that those measures must be instituted. Thank you for allowing me to also share my view with you. Any input on this? Executive Mayor, are you fine with it if we can do it that way?
Yes, I'm fine, Mr. Speaker. It's always good to know what's going to happen going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Executive Mayor. Can we then, Mayor, then ask that we get a proposal? We've already received a proposal in second, Rihanna. Thank you. We've done that. My apologies. My list and the agenda and the I'm not confused, but yeah, I'm trying to look at 3 things at the same time. Can we move then to section D? It's the items from the Financial Services Department. Am I correct, Advocate? Yep. Thank you. It's the Debt Write-Off Report 2019-2020, quarter four, pages 98 to 105, 105. Mr. Mayor?
Are you opening up for inputs, Mr. Speaker?
Yes, please. Any input
right.
on this matter? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, once again, it's again an uncomfortable item, the write-off of debt. But fortunately, in this instance, that the reasons are given. And I just want to put a rider to it, Mr. Speaker, is that irregular expenditure as defined most of the time by the AG for those who are not in the system, we do not always agree with the AG because it's always a matter of interpretation of the laws, and in our instance, the MFMA, and reasons given for irregular expenditure, etc., Mr. Speaker. So again, as a mayor, to me, if there's no fraud and corruption, you know, Mr. Speaker, I'll always understand. But what we will never tolerate is exactly that, fraud and corruption. But if the reasons are given and the reasons make sense, Mr. Speaker, then we have no option but to go with it.
Thank you, Mr. Executive Mayor. Any input, further input on this matter?
Speaker?
Is that Elder Lady Wolmarans?
Yes, Speaker. If there are no other inputs, I want to second the proposal of the mayor.
Thank you,
That we approve. Thank you.
Thank you, Elder Lady Wolmarans. The background to your picture almost looks like as if you're speaking from a lodge somewhere.
Speaker, I'm going to switch it off again now.
Thank you, Elder Lady Wolmarans. That's fine. Can we move then? Next item. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor van der Alderman van der Hoeven. Let's move it. He reminds me that speed kills, but we can move a bit faster. Can we move to D2, deviation report, implementation of the supply chain management policy for the period 1st of May 2020 to 31st of May 2020, pages 106 to 112. Any input? I don't see anything from the floor, any hand, no wave. Thank you, Alderman Boyson, Executive Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm accountable for the finances. Hence, I'm talking a lot whenever there are figures involved. I understand the reasons, Mr. Speaker, and once again, we have came down considerably when it comes to deviations. So I propose that we go with this recommendation.
Thank you very much, Executive Mayor. D2. We have also, Executive Mayor, thank you. We also, is that Councillor Johnson? That's seconding it.
I just wanted to second the mayor's proposal.
Thank you very much, Councillor Johnson. D3, cost contained reporting, Q3 of 2019-2020. You'll find it on page 113 to 116. Thank you, Executive Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, again, we take our hats off to the municipal manager and his staff in terms of saving us a lot of money when it comes to cost containment. But Mr. Speaker, I want to warn council, the municipality and the Garden Road as a whole, these figures will change, Mr. Speaker, going forward. COVID-19 has taken us back to the drawing board. There are things, Mr. Speaker, where we did not spend this time around, but going forward to revive the economy of the Garden Route and to create jobs and to stimulate businesses, this figure will look different come the next financial year, Mr. Speaker. We'll spend in terms of reviving the economy instead of saving to curb jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Alderman Executive Mayor Boyson. Thank you, Rihanna.
Councillor van der Hoeven raised his hand.
Councillor van der Hoeven. Thank you, Councillor Alderman van der Hoeven.
Thank you, Speaker, for that. Number one, Speaker, I just wanted, I noticed there that the saving that we had in 3 quarters, not in three quarters, but in 3 quarters, is 1.3 million rand, which is quite a lot to save in 9 months. Question is, what are the projections for the next 3 months so that we can talk about the year, complete year performance? And then, Speaker, what I also want to know, how much of this savings is due to the COVID-19 lockdown, the fact that we attend council meetings virtually, the fact that most of our councillors are not supplied with refreshments at meetings, the fact that certain councillors don't travel any longer and don't put in travel claims. Can we just get an indication in that regard?
Thank you, Alderman van der Hoeven. Executive Mayor, Alderman Boyson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm not going to be specific in terms of where the savings were made, if the CFO or the MM wants to get into that, but Alderman van der Hoeven is partly correct that some of those savings came out of less traveling, less meetings. It also came out of less events because we remember that we had to cut down on events as well. But I want to reiterate, Mr. Speaker, is that the savings we're making here, we need to spend it somewhere as long as there will be a return on our expenditure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alderman Boyson. Mr. Executive Mayor, any further input? Thank you. Can we move? Thank you. I've just received a message from Councillor Mangaliso that he indicates that Telkom has got a very weak signal and that he now offers his apology for not further participating in this council meeting. Alderman van der Werven, thank you. Can we move then to the next item? Am I correct and say it's E1? E1, pages 117 to 132, extension of contracts and service level agreements of service providers relating to all financial services and transactional systems for an extended period of 2 years. Any input on this item?
Speaker, yes. Can I?
Thank you.
Can I come in, Speaker?
You're most welcome.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, we will be irresponsible. I think I must say that we will be irresponsible if we would reject the recommendation for the extension of this service level agreement on the basis that this contract expires today, which is the 30th of June. And a revised contract will be commencing, or will have to, therefore will have to commence tomorrow, the 1st of July. So on those bases, I mean, it will be irresponsible of us to say that we reject the recommendation for the extension of this contract. However, Mr. Speaker, the concern is the fact that it was known that today, the 30th of June, this contract would come to an end. But it is not understandable why only now that this item or an item for the extension of this contract or of the contract should only be brought to council now, which therefore this means that council is put in a tight corner, not to think otherwise, but to support the recommendation to extend this contract, Mr. Speaker. I must say that yes, as it is indicated on the report, that there is a room for extension of this contract or for the service provider to negotiate or renegotiate the extension of this contract for a further 2 years. However, the council still had an opportunity to go out and to go out for a competitive bidding on this contract. But what has been done now puts council in a tight corner, not to be able to think any otherwise, but to accept the recommendation, Mr. Speaker, which I think, according to myself, is not. It cannot be. It's not acceptable. It cannot be acceptable, Mr. Speaker, because I mean, in terms of contract management, it was known that this contract will expire today. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, with those concerns, having those concerns also, which I think my other comrades might also come in, colleagues might also come in, that, as I said, we won't be able to say we reject it, but those are the concerns. But, Mr. Speaker, I would like to see that on the recommendations for the further extension of this contract for a further 2 years, that I do not know how to put it, but that the contract should be extended. However, at the end or within a reasonable time, towards the end of this further 2 years, that a report be brought to council so that council start, I mean, a process. In fact, they say that a process be started within a reasonable time before the end of these 2 years, to go on a competitive bidding, because we're talking about millions here, about millions on this contract. It's a multi-million contract, this one. See, Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Any further input? Alderman Gericke, and who else, Liana? Is it Alderman van der Werven? Alderman Gericke, and I see your hand, Liana.
My hand is up as well, Speaker.
The municipal manager says Alderman van der Hoeven, Alderman Gericke. Municipal manager, would you like to come in for clarification before I grant opportunity to all the aldermen to proceed?
Yes, Alderman Speaker, thank you very much. I think the concerns raised by Councillor Mbendezi are very valid and real. However, Speaker, I should recall that this matter was presented to Council and discussed, and the agreement was to extend the contracts. But I just, with your permission, Speaker, ask the CFO just to remind councillors, because it is not the first time that the SCOA policies are discussed. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, MM. Alderman van der Hoeven, and then Alderman Gericke.
Thank you, Speaker. As the MM said, Councillor Mbendezi raised a serious issue. My question is, what are our options? Must we just agree to this, or do we have another option? Are we in the corner?
Speaker?
You're welcome, MM.
Can I just request, Speaker, with your permission, that the CFO informs Council that these matters were discussed and there was the agreement on the way forward. Thank you, Speaker.
The CFO, it's not that somebody is throwing in the towel, but yeah, you might be of a boxing ring. CFO, please proceed.
Yes, thank you, Speaker. Yes, I want to remind Council that this matter of the systems and the fact that all these systems that we currently use are all integrated, and that it came through the MSCOA process mainly. It was raised at the strategic session we had earlier in the year, indicating that it would be two reasons why we recommend extension. The first one is that even National Treasury would not recommend for a municipality to change systems within 3 years, because the RT25 tender that we use to procure our MSCOA system is actually a 5-year contract. So their recommendation is that for at least 5 years, the municipality uses the same system, just because of all the development and the training and the cost of implementation of a new system. And that is why we are also using the National Treasury period, which is a 5-year period, to cover the additional 2 years that is in the item before Council. And then secondly is just because of there's actually 2 more reasons. The second one would be the cost of implementation of new systems. You will see in the item that it cost millions to purchase this system, and therefore to spend millions again for a new system would be money spent that Council currently would consider not to have. But then thirdly, and an important point is that with our various forums with provincial and national government, these MSCOA systems specifically is discussed at each opportunity. And there is currently no system that can say, we've got all the bases covered. And therefore at these forums, we are advised not to change systems, because we will then have to go through another 2-3 year teething period, like we did in the current implementation. And therefore it was then discussed during that strat session that the recommendation would be to extend the contract of these systems. But then, as the Council has said, there is a recommendation 3 of under the recommendations on page 121 does indicate that 6 months prior to the conclusion of the new 2-year period, a process of investigation on new systems be concluded, so that Council can again take an informed decision on whether to extend or to procure, with the input of national and provincial government again.
Thank you very much, CFO. Alderman van der Hoeven. Klaar. Alderman Gericke. Further make an input after Alderman Gericke? Alderman Gericke, please. Okay, Alderman Gericke, Councillor Spies.
Without wasting any time, we had this item or the MSCOA predicament, call it that way, has been under discussion for quite some time. And I know this is a real embarrassment to some officials and always also to the politicians. But we have raised our concerns way back to say these guys, this company is actually manipulating this process. Manipulating in the sense that they want to stay in the run, they want to remain in the run to reap the benefits of this. There was huge problems experienced at one time with them, as has been reported by the CFO and the municipal manager, when they had problems with the system. One time these guys rock up, the other time they don't rock up, they answer phones, they don't answer phones, and so on. I'm going to support the African National Congress in this regard, because we are politicians, we are not officials. And we have constituencies that are interested to know why is it that some service providers enjoy this preference to have the favor of having a contract so long. There are other competitors in the market. The officials must take this into consideration. There are others that can compete with these guys, although they are the preferred service providers of National Treasury. But I'm going to ask Mr. Meyer through the speaker that the CFO, in terms of his submission here today, the discussions that they have with National Treasury and the recommendations by National Treasury and so on, is going to be helpful if in future he includes that communication so that we understand, so that we can go back to our constituencies when they challenge us on this to say, guys, it's National Treasury or Provincial Treasury that has recommended the following. Please include, you know, that so that we have a broader context of what is happening here. Because it is millions of rands involved here, Mr. Meyer. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Gericke. Councillor Spies.
Yes, thank you, Speaker. To me, I know most councillors in this chamber know that I had issues with in Afrikaans sê hulle jy word in 'n blik gedruk. But that was at the beginning of this process. We have had to settle our hearts on the idea that these are the providers, these are the licenses that we bought, these are the agreements, these are the investments we decided to make. And so I, in some manner, agree with Councillor Bandesi that we are now midway through this stream and it is not the time to change horses. But frustrations abound. Hopefully going forward, there will appear some competitor that is that can deliver the service the way National Treasury envisioned it at the beginning of this this trip that we're on. With that said, Speaker, I would like to propose that we go with the recommendations as is. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Councillor Bandesi.
Yeah, just my last bite as a follow-up, Mr. Speaker, on this item. As it is said by all the other colleagues, both in Afrikaans and in English, that on a block drag what Yes, Mr. Speaker. I heard the CFO indicate in terms of that recommendation number 3 that within a 6-month period before the expiry of the term, then a new process must be started. Please, I wish that we can be sure that 6 months period will be a sufficient period. And also, any recommendation by National Treasury, it does not mean that it's what it should do. Because we need to cover ourselves as council, not to be seen out there as people that are favoring a particular service provider or that are trying to keep a particular service provider forever in the system. So we need to cover ourselves. Hence, these debates are important. Also to cover the officials, not to be seen as if they want to keep a particular service provider forever in the system. You see, there is no irreplaceable service provider here. I mean, with every day there develops new service providers. So there is no irreplaceable service provider. There should be no service provider that implies that he or she is irreplaceable. Thank you on those words, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Councillor Mpandesi. We've got a proposer.
Speaker. Speaker.
Is that Councillor Litaba?
Councillor Reuters, I second the proposal of Councillor Spies as is.
Thank you. Proposed Councillor Spies, seconded Councillor Deputy Executive, my elder lady Reuters. Thank you, Alderman Gericke.
Can I just ask? Yes, it's procedure in terms of the rules of order to propose and to second, but we have raised serious issues here. And nobody is committing to say, yes, we take note of the serious issues, we will pursue the issues on another level. We must get that undertaking from either the political executive or the administrative executive. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Gericke. Thank you, Alderman Mr. Meyer.
Mr. Speaker, my apologies. Alderman Gericke did address me on that, and it is noted, it's recorded, and I agree we should have all the attachments at our exposure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Executive Mayor. We can always in our minutes reflect what has now been also resolved. Thank you, Rihanna. Thank you. Get a nod. Can we then proceed? E2 is a proposal for the adjustment of the, Alderman van der Werven. My apologies, I didn't see you. Alderman van der Werven, would
Let me
like.
just unmute myself. Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, my proposal is that the next 3 items have been workshopped and we had thorough discussions on them. And my request would be that we move on, that we agree to that in one batch and move on then to E5.
Thank you. I've got a proposal. Any input or a seconder for that proposal? It is allowed. Thank you, Alderman van der Werven. Seconded by Alderman Gericke. Any further input on these 3 items? Thank you for the progress. Can we move?
Please, Speaker.
Thank you. Can we then move to E5, the report on the council resolution register for the period April to June 2020, pages 183 to pages 210. Many thanks. Appreciation for the upkeep of this. Thank you, please. Sorry, Ms. Holzhausen. Thank you very much for you and your department, staff, also for this report. Can we note it? Thank you, Executive Mayor. Proposal seconder, we note it. Thank you. Section F, report on the provincial guide in managing COVID-19 fatalities in the Western Cape, pages 211 to 253. Any input? Can we deal with this item simultaneously with F4 perhaps? Or can we just note this? F1. Any input?
Speaker.
Thank you, Alderman de Vries.
Speaker, just a question in terms of, I've read through the guidelines and just want to know whether we're experiencing any challenges in terms of the responsibilities that are allocated to the district council or the district municipality, for instance, where it make reference to the environmental health practitioners, for instance, that must be present or go to home fatalities, also where environmental health practitioners must be dispatched to ensure that the human remains is done as per the regulations. So when I read that, it seems to me that's a lot of responsibilities that was not there before for us. So just to management in terms of whether we're experiencing any problems to comply with those regulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman de Vries. I would just like to put it on record that Councillor Welskut is also excusing himself due to urgent other matters. Die Rijkste Welskut in our region. Thank you, Alderman de Vries. Any input, further input? Alderman Gericke?
Yeah, no, this is guidelines. Can I ask Alderman Meyer if it's guidelines or even to the municipal manager, if it's only guidelines, how do we enforce guidelines? Because the COVID crisis is a real, it's a real crisis that and people should be buried soon after they passed on. Let's say we have, for instance, a funeral undertaker that does not subscribe to the guidelines. In other words, they don't meet, you know, the requirements in terms of the guidelines. Do we have power to act, Mr. Speaker?
Thank you, Alderman Gericke. Alderman Gericke, Alderman Boysen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as Alderman Gericke is putting it, there's no two ways when it comes to dealing with COVID-19. If the experts have made a decision, the health practitioners and the committee that advises national, when those guidelines comes down, we need to enforce it, and that is our duty. So we're not going to play around with debates, etc. It's like in the army. The general has spoken, we do it, and then we revisit as we learn through the process.
Thank you. Followed by Alderman Gericke, and there's somebody in just after you, Alderman Gericke.
Mr. Clive Africa.
Just a follow-up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clive Africa. You're doing an excellent sterling work at the moment that I've given you. You have acted and speedily so. Mr. Meyer, we can be very proud of that department. Very proud.
Definitely.
The thing is, the reason why I'm asking this, I just had a call when I left the chamber here, Mr. Speaker, that somebody died yesterday of COVID, and this person does not have a funeral policy. In terms of the regulations or the undertaker's funeral, they must bury that person within 3 days. That person cannot be in a mortuary or on the earth. It's difficult circumstances, and I know it's not the responsibility of government, but you've got to dispose of that body. Now, how do we go about that, Mr. Meyer? We are the district municipality actually responsible for the command center of the region. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Alderman. Alderman Meyer. Mr. Meyer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I will not be the expert in this field, but what I do know, Mr. Speaker, this is where pauper burials kicks in. We used to use it to get away with easy, but this is actually your pauper burial cases where government must intervene, including us.
Thank you very much, Executive Mayor.
Sorry, Mr. Meyer. You know, the trauma that these families are going through. They've been in quarantine. They haven't seen the deceased for quite some time. And now suddenly, yes, I agree, pauper burial, coming up with a pauper burial, but it's very impersonal. Just to take somebody there to a hole and throw him into the hole. Maybe we must look at this. This virus is going to be with us for quite some time. Maybe we must look at pauper burials, but in a more dignified way, sir.
Agreed.
Thank you. Thank you, Alderman Gericke, Alderman voice and executive mayor, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, Mr. Africa, would you still want to come in?
Maybe to respond on Alderman De Vries in terms of our capacity to manage, these fatalities. At the moment, we've only had about 22 fatalities. We've got 40 EHPs. I've personally, attended, a funeral on Saturday. It normally takes about only an hour. The service at the home or at the church, that is normally just about half an hour. So for now, with the current fatalities that we do have, Alderman, we do have the capacity to manage these burials at this moment. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Africa. Is that Mr. Compio?
Thank you, Speaker. If I just can add to some of the questions regarding the funeral undertakers, we train these funeral undertakers now for several times already during the past 2 months. Even during this week, we gave some training to the George undertakers as well. So we also now developed a cloud-based area where they can give us all their feedback on their challenges, especially where we can communicate with all the other takers in our region regarding all their challenges and also their feedback on what they're doing specifically at their places where they work.
Thank you very much, Mr. Compion. Thank you, Rihanna, for your assistance.
Councillor van der Hoeven.
Alderman van der Hoeven.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I just want to ask if we can't get a breakdown of all the all the deaths in the region per town, because I just heard now there are 22 cases from Mr. Africa. If you can just indicate which areas are affected and how many.
Thank you. Thank you. I've just been advised that some of the responses or some of the answers to your concerns or question raised will be dealt with under item F4. Is it possible that we can couple the two and then we can address this as holistically, the two reports?
Yes, Speaker.
Yes. Thank you, Alderman Gericke. Can we then move to deal with item F1 as well as item F4? I've received a copy of the report, the update report on the actions taken by the District COVID-19 Command Council to address the COVID-19.
Good afternoon, councillors. I hope you can all hear me. What I've done is I've also passed on just a talking points agenda for today.
Gerard?
Yeah.
My apologies. Can I just again request that everybody else switch off their or unmute themselves because there's a kringfluit.
Can you hear me now better?
I can hear you better now, thank you. I know you're a very busy man.
Okay, so councillors, yeah, what I will do, I will quickly just go through this. First of all, over the last 7 days, we've seen 256% increase in the COVID cases in the Garden Route district. If we compare this to Cape Town, this is now higher than the infection rate in Cape Town. So for our district at this point, we are now around about 148 cases per 100,000 of population. Last week, this was 132 per 100,000 of population. Although Cape Town peaked at about 700 cases per 100,000 of population, we are now, the infection rate is now higher with us. Then compared to the other districts around us, I felt it was necessary for us to look at them and where they are at this point. Cape Winelands, obviously we know they were the first district that actually were declared a hotspot, and they are now on 6,060 cases, of which 3,777 is active, and 2,000 plus of them you will see is active cases. Then Overberg total cases is 1,103, recovered 546, and 500 plus cases is active. And with West Coast, 1,432, recovered 841, and 550 cases active. Now with looking at specifically at the garden route, you can look at the various percentages that I've put on my report. I will speak on that now, but for the garden route, the latest updates I've got is that we are now on 1,060 cases in the garden route. And of these, we've got 20 official deaths that's already reported yesterday. I know Mr. Africa mentioned 22 because they've got figures that we will only get tomorrow morning. We are aware that there was 2 additional fatalities that we now need to add. And then on the recovery side, we've gone 391, which now puts us at 649 active COVID-19 cases at this point in the garden route. Breaking this down in each of the towns, for George, we've got 541 positive cases. Of these, we've got 12 fatalities. I am informed that the one that we must still add should actually be added here by George, so that'll make George then 13 fatalities. Recovered is 169, and active cases for George is 360. For Mossel Bay, we're on 199 with 2 at the report, but I've heard that the other one is supposed to come to Mossel Bay, so now it's 3 fatalities, 71 recovered, and 126 active cases. For Knysna, 155 in total, 4 fatalities, 89 recovered, 62 active cases. Bito is on 68 with 1 fatality, 18 recovered, and 49 active cases. For Hesekwa, we're on 24 in total, 1 fatality, 17 recovered, and 6 active cases. And for Kannaland, we're on 5, no fatalities, 3 recovered, 2 active cases. And lastly, for Oudtshoorn, we're on 68 with no fatalities, 24 recovered, and 44 active cases. Then I need to highlight to Council that we look and we take our notes from what is happening in Cape Town. So we know that they are about a month ahead of us. So we now look at what happened a month ago in Cape Town so that we can make the right preparations for our district. And what they've indicated now is that they've got an increase in the positive cases at specifically frail care facilities. So we're looking at our frail care facilities at this point. We have only had 1 person that has tested positive, and that person actually has recovered, and that person is well again. So looking at our hotspot strategy, we will focus at looking at our frail care facilities, making sure that these areas stay, if possible, in level 5 of lockdown. Then looking at where I foresee a problem is specifically in terms of the payment of the 350 COVID-19 grants that is being dealt with by SASSA. And I'm still, as we speak, I'm concerned that we haven't got the breakdown per local municipal area, because I feel we need to align this to the poverty pockets in our district to see where these people are at getting the SASSA grants at this point, and if they are aligned to our poverty pockets. In order to address this at each local job, we've requested SASSA to assign somebody to each of the local jobs, and they've done that. I know there's been some complaints. I followed up again today, and there will be some additional staff made available from SASSA side. Then our staff, today 2 of our staff has collected more food at the warehouse in Cape Town. We got a heads up that there's still more food available. So in total, I think there's about 3 tons food on its way now to George to be distributed to the facilities for the homeless in Knysna, George, and Mossel Bay, and also in the other areas. And then more will be collected later on in the week. Then I need to maybe just at this point share with you, if it's possible for me to share. I'm going to see if I'm. Yeah, well, Rihanna, if I'm, I can't share while you're sharing, so maybe we must just quickly go over. Then I will share my screen and I'll share the hotspot map with everyone. Okay. Councillors, so what we've done, hopefully you can now see this map. This is an interactive map which we update twice a week. So the latest updates will come by tomorrow morning. So what we do is we populate the map with the specific geo-reference of each of the positive COVID-19 cases. And what is nice is you can zoom in and you can look. So for our district, you can now immediately see all these green is where COVID cases has already been reported. but they are a little bit older. The younger ones, the more recent ones is orange, and then the most recent ones is red. So you'll see where we've had cases and they've already recovered, and then now drilling down, because we now know this is the red area. Now, where is our problem hotspot that we have to focus? And then I will just add the label so you can see exactly where the places are. And yeah, we can definitely see that our hotspot is in Thembalethu. That is where most of the latest COVID-19 positive cases has been reported. So we will be updating this map on a weekly basis and then aligning our hotspot strategy to this. So the strategy would be to address these areas as matters from all government departments. Okay, I can stop sharing. Rihanna, you can put back my summary if it's possible for you. And then from my side, when we look at our hotspot strategy, what we've done is we've included all the departments because it's a whole of government approach. And we've asked all of the departments to now focus what they are doing in the hotspot, and then to, from that point, also give feedback to HOD Jackie Sampson for feedback to the extended cabinet meeting that is done every Friday. So in that regard, we can now make sure that whatever we need and whatever is on the ground, the problem that we identify is mentioned at cabinet, and we can get as a resolution or something to do in terms of what we have highlighted as soon as possible. Then in terms of our own EHPs, as has been discussed now, for our EHPs, they've started now attending the COVID-19 funerals to ensure that the COVID-19 protocols is adhered to. I heard what Councillor Gierek has said. There is regulations that indicates exactly what must be done and what the funeral undertakers must adhere to. So that is being double checked by our EHPs. Our EHPs also started doing home visits. And I want to report that from the first 100 home visits that they did, they've indicated that only one person did not adhere to the self-isolation, self-quarantine protocols. So we were quite happy to see that most people is adhering to it. Then what they're also doing, they'll be starting to provide these people with sanitizing soap, as well as disinfectant and alcohol-based hand sanitizer. So that is going forward, we'll be doing that. The EHPs is now also training, again, funeral undertakers, as Johannes indicated just now. And the EHP section has now also developed this cloud-based reporting tool that can be used by all funeral undertakers. And what we've also done is, in the last week, we've established, you'll see in my report, we've established a specific work group that looks at mass fatality management. So if we need to get to unpacking a plan in that regard, we already got one. We've already developed the contingency planning in that regard. And this is led by Mr. Sean Fife. He's doing that for us. So just a last couple of things. Firstly, what we've requested also is the SANDF to be more visible in our area. And we've learned now that it can only be done after a request from the Department of Health. And if they see our area as if the fatality rate rises, it's also linked to that, they will then decide to deploy more SANDF soldiers in this area. We have again requested that the HOD for local government take up the 20 billion COVID grant that's apparently available, but we haven't seen any of the procedures to apply for this, because we feel that as many of the local municipalities have got additional expenses, it's got additional costs that they didn't cater for, they didn't budget for, COVID-19 related costs, and we want to include this in our application for this grant. We as the district municipality for Gardenwood has not officially been declared in any of the notices as a hotspot, but we have been informed that we now meet all the criteria to be dealt with as a hotspot. Then with regards to the use of the medicine dexamethasone, difficult one to say, we are waiting for the revised protocol. The doctor indicated to us that they can be used, and it will be used in our areas, and it is available at our hospitals. So they will be using that going forward. And then lastly, we have also now decentralized the use of the Red Dot taxi service to transport people to the quarantine and isolation site. And up to date, we've got about 50 people that is now already at the isolation and quarantine site at Petro SA. And we've got daily movements of between 6 to 10 people now with the Red Dot taxis, and it's being done from our call center. Thank you. I'm open for questions.
Thank you very much, Gerard.
Councillor van der Hoeven, and then Councillor Lichaba.
Alderman van der Hoeven, and then Councillor Lichaba, and then Alderman Gericke.
Councillor, I'm watching the screen, and Councillor Lichaba was before me. I will speak after Lichaba.
Now that is a gentleman alderman. Thank you, Councillor Lichaba.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Councillor Alderman Van Hoeven. I just wanted first to ask of one talks about, we have spoken about the undertakers, that there is a concern here that they're saying that some of the regulation are not being adhered to and they want assistance from the government. Because at the moment where you also of where there's gatherings, some of the room not here. This concern because themselves they are saying that they need assistance from us. So it's unfortunate, also the previous and particularly this one is an active data that we do not find any information regarding gender-based violence against women and children. We have thought that we have asked before that at least that should also declare it a pandemic. Good, it even just from steps from the SAS just to find the stats so that we are able to look what's going on, where are the increase, where are the areas that we need to give interventions on, and to make more to have proactive measures and to advocate and so forth. So it would have been good that if thank you, Speaker. So, Speaker, we do not see that the site that is being used for for isolation that is being considered. I do not know what is the problem, but it looks like here there is no one there. But the cases, or is it that people now are self? People are self-isolating from homes. Do they keep the actual rules that they're supposed to keep in isolation? Those are my questions.
Thank you, Councillor Chaba. I really appreciate your input a lot. Thank you so much for your input. Can I ask perhaps Gerrit, would you like to respond to that before I proceed to give Alderman van der Hoeven and Alderman Gericke an opportunity?
Yes, only Councillor Lichaba's questions. I didn't get any other questions at this point, so I'll just reply to hers now. First of all, yes, Councillor, I will request our DSD cluster to give me information in terms of the gender-based violence. I fully agree that we could ask for that, and we haven't got that at this point in time. SASSA has promised us a breakdown of the payments as per municipal area and if possible per ward, and we can also link into that. And yes, to answer you with regards to the isolation and quarantine, there's 50 people at Petro SA, of which the facility has got more than enough beds to deal with about 600 people. Most of the people currently is isolated and quarantined at their own homes, and that is where the EHPs also did the inspections to see that they are there. So most of them is at their own homes at this point in time. What we have found, also learning from what Cape Town has indicated, is some people refuses to leave their homes because they are concerned of vandalism that can take place when they are not at their homes for 14 days. So they prefer to stay at home. But yes, what we've done is we've also indicated that if we would find people that is not self-isolating or quarantined at home, we will follow this up with the judiciary. We've already spoken to the magistrate because actually that person can be prosecuted for attempted murder because that person is COVID positive and they're supposed to be at home.
Thank you very much, Gerrit. Sorry, Alderman Gericke. Alderman van der Hoeven and then Alderman Gericke. Alderman van der Hoeven.
Can I unmute? I have unmuted, Speaker.
Yes, please.
Speaker, two things. First of all, I want to thank and applaud once again Mr. Africa and Mr. Otto and Mr. Compion, and under the supervision of the MM, because he is in charge, for the excellent work they are doing and for the information that they disseminate on a regular basis and keep us posted. Thank you very, very much for that. Mr. Otto, please just again keep us updated on the death rate, because we get regular requests regarding that, or we need to report regularly on that. So we would appreciate if we can just get more updated, more regular updates on that as well, because the Western Cape report that comes out every day does not reflect that. Speaker, I want to just also know, what is the issue? The hotspot, as indicated here in George, is Tembeleke. And now the taxis indicate that they are going to transport people at full capacity. How and what does that add to the risk, and what can be done in that regard? That would be my input, Peter, and then I will suggest that we conclude after Councillor Gericke.
Thank you very much, Alderman van der Hoeven. Alderman Gericke.
Yes, thank you, Speaker. Yeah, let me also make use of this opportunity to congratulate the team in their departments by names of Mr. Clive Africa, Mr. Gerard Otto, Mr. Jan Compion, and all the other officials that are really dedicated and committed, Mr. Speaker, to this cause. You are doing a great job at the moment. I am very proud, Alderman Mayor, of our team here. Very proud, because they respond when we call them and they do the right things. I just have a couple of issues. Mr. Otto has mentioned I didn't get that one, Mr. Otto. Who must apply to the SANDF for their presence before I proceed?
It's a request that is done by Department of Health. They only react on Department of Health request.
That's great news. Great to hear that also. I think since you have explained to us in a very broad way that we are now a hotspot and that extraordinary measures should be put in place to manage this COVID crisis. From my side, I would really ask you most probably to direct that request also from this municipality side to the Department of Health to see whether they can then request the SANDF for their presence. I know it's not a favorable thing to do, and I know that people don't want to hear this, that we have the army in our residential areas. But it has become much needed now, actually essential, Mr. Mayor, Alderman, because there's a spike in cases. It's rising every day. It's an increase. And then the other issue that we are dealing with is the interpretation of the regulations, Mr. Otto. Many people misinterpret the regulations and then cut and size it according to what they want. I'm going to give you some examples because it is very disturbing. I have written to you a couple of weeks ago, Alderman Mayor, to Mr. Otto as the commander of the job. I've also written to the cluster commander, and I have been in conversation on Sunday night when it happened with the cluster general. The interpretation, for instance, of the police in terms of evictions. The regulations are clear that nobody can be evicted during this time. There are still people that proceed to evict people on a daily basis. Number one, keep that in mind because it's a matter of great concern. The last case that I dealt with on Sunday night was where an owner went to kick down the door of the tenant and they wanted the tenants to leave. Then the other issue was with regard to the transport, Alderman Meyer. The Go George buses. I've written to the cluster commander in this regard to ask if there's a criminal element, because it has been asked worldwide by the World Health Organization and all other institutions. The issue of social distancing is a great issue. Now, in terms of the regulations, it says that buses should be loaded 50% sitting passengers and 50% standing. What they have done at the Go George, they've taken away the 50% standing passengers, meaning because it takes 40 seated and 40 standing. So they've taken away the 40 there and they fill up the bus with the entire 40 passengers in the seat. It means that people are sitting next to one another. They are sitting next to one another. Just listen to this. So now they say they're obliged to the 50%. The police have written back to me to say there's no element of criminality, but the Go George people must implement social distancing. Now, it is not happening. The buses are rolling out, it's in our communities. Just to give you a broad background, when those people contract the virus, for instance, they're sitting next to somebody, they get out of that bus, disembark that bus, they go into wherever they work, in a retail store, at school, wherever, they can infect other people. In fact, it has happened now. Now, there's nobody at the moment that's paying attention to this issue of social distancing on buses. I know it's a hot potato for some of our officials because you will get the Western Cape, DA, provincial government upon you when you start to fight these guys. I know it. But you've got to show.
On a point of order, Mr. Speaker.
You've got to show statesmanship here.
On a
Point of order, Executive Mayor. Alderman Boyson.
There is an allegation made by Alderman Gericke by mentioning political parties that are protecting Go George buses.
I'm not saying the buses are being protected, Mr. Mayor. Stay in the spirit in which you are. I'm not saying that. I say when you address issues on those buses, you will have directly the DA provincial government upon your shoulders. That doesn't mean to say that you are protecting, because they are in charge. The Department of Transport, I'm not saying they will protect you. I'm saying you will deal with them, and instead of local officials. So this is the issue here. The issue is that we must handle social distancing on buses, and therefore we must now get to a point where we either work together with the police or whatever institutional authority to get that done. It's a huge point. It's a gross point, Mr. Mayor, Alderman Mayor, and it seems that nobody is implementing this. There are strikes at the Go George buses. That figure at the staff complement there has also escalated exponentially. With regard to the drivers, I would love to have an answer in this regard. We must answer our people, Mr. Otto.
Thank you. Thank you. Can we, any further input? I would like to make one, Rihanna. There's, sorry, I can't see any hand or big person or councillor that would like to come in.
Councillor De Vries, and then in the Bito conference room.
Alderman De Vries and a councillor in the Bito conference room. Can you please identify yourself? Alderman De Vries.
Thank you, Speaker. Maybe just Rihanna, I also saw Councillor Spies' hand also being raised. So let me also talk for my colleague here, Neisner.
Thank you, Councillor De Vries.
Speaker, recently there was a news article locally of when the Department of Labour visited a number of supermarkets in Neisner, over 4 or 5 have to close. Now we know that the Department of Labour, the way it was structured, didn't take into consideration that they must go and do inspections for COVID-19. And I will assume that they have limited capacity to go around in the whole district. So the question I have, is there any collaboration between us as the district council and the department to assist in terms of to monitor that businesses adhere to the necessary safety standards? Or was there any request from the department in that regard in terms of us? I'm just worried that the department have a few inspectors that must go around through 8 towns in the district. And we are not actually acting immediately because we're only acting when there's cases identified. In fact, when we can actually see that these businesses are not in compliance with the regulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman De Vries. Mr. Meyer, Alderman Boysen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to respond to Alderman De Vries partly, but I know Gerard can probably also give some more. Mr. Speaker, between ourselves as the Garden Route District Municipality and the Department of Community Services, Minister Fritz, we're in agreement and in partnership, and we have written to the local municipalities, Mr. Speaker, where through the EPWP project and through DOCS, that each municipality, and there's also the Chrysalis project, 20 per municipality, and we pay them a stipend, and the municipality can use them in terms of assisting with social distancing at events, at bus stops, etc., etc. So we are dealing with some of those municipalities, but I'd like to make the plea as well, not all municipalities has come on board. And I'm making this plea now publicly that municipalities must please make use of this opportunity and offer from us. All they need to do, because they have their own database in terms of who received Chrysalis training that was done by a province, we then would tap into that resources in EPWP. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councillor Spies.
It's the Bito conference room, Speaker, please. And then I'll follow.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief Whip. I'm sure it's after 4 o'clock. The Speaker, someone wants to go home, I can say that. Thank you very much. Mine is political. I have read during the month of June somehow that the NCC has resolved that they will deploy the ministers, national ministers, to descend down to the all 54 districts in the country. And part of that is to have a link between the national government and the district municipalities in that regard. So what I wanted to check with the mayor as to whether is there such a kind of a communication that has come forth, and or is just part of those news that were just thrown out in the media. And if so, what has been the engagements between the district and the ministers, or whoever the minister would be deployed here?
Thank you very much, Councillor Petisa. Alderman Executive Mayor, Alderman Boysen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, for those who don't know, there are 5 districts within the Western Cape, and all 5 of us as the mayors of the various district municipalities, we had the engagement, and we looked at the deployment of national ministers to the districts. We took a decision and we made a recommendation, Mr. Speaker and councillors, that we need professionals. We need doctors. We need environmental health practitioners. We've made a request to national that they should give us expertise and experts. We as councillors, we're good in terms of assisting and conveying what should happen, but when it comes to the actual execution of what needs to be done, we're not experts in that field. And the Premier of the Western Cape have written to the President in that regard to see if that request can be looked into. And based on the response which we will get from the Presidency, then we will take it further. But we prefer professionals.
Thank you so much, Alderman Boysen, Executive Mayor. I think we've almost exhausted this. From my side, Rihanna.
Speaker.
Councillors, Councillor Scaps, please.
Thank you. Yes, just to Councillor Mapitiza, if he finally gets a minister down to Garden Route, can he sort of try that it be the Kokta minister? Me and the deputy have something to talk to her about. Speaker,
The period for increase in stipends or wages is passed. You cannot tender for increase anymore. What the minister, thank you.
I think they call it just entries, please, just entries. Speaker to Mr. Otto, when he was going through the interactive map, and he paused there over Tembaletu, I also noticed that you can clearly see that there is, well, not clearly, but it seems like an emerging hotspot over Puckelsdorp. Now, my question is, do we have a on-the-ground communication strategy to let these areas know and at how much risk they are specifically? If you consider, and this might be a generalization, but Councillor Wolmerans posted a very popular post on Facebook last week about Checkers and how disrespectful the Checkers manager was. But consider that the employees at a specific retail shop might all be working, or most of them might live in the same area. And now they close Checkers, and all the staff from Checkers moved to Hornley. And then now all of a sudden there is a hotspot in Hornley and Knysna. But the people of Hornley don't know how much risk they are actually at. They think because there are 45 cases in Knysna, the 45 cases are spread all over Knysna. And meanwhile, you are actually more at risk in Hornley than you are in, say, Netjies or Damsebos. And I understand the fear of stigmatizing areas or stigmatizing a group of people. I understand that. But is there an on-the-ground communication strategy to let people know, people in areas know exactly and at how much risk they are? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Spies.
Councillor Mbandezi.
Councillor Mbandezi.
Hi, Speaker. Speaker, I just want to find out something with regard to the councillor has indicated that, I think Mr. Otto indicated that with regards to this project for COVID volunteers, the social distance COVID volunteers, some municipalities have not come on board. I would like to know, or I would like him to share with us which municipalities, because we are representing municipalities, which municipalities did not come on board. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Councillor Mbandezi.
Councillor Reuters.
Alderman
Thank you.
Lady Reuters, Deputy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, from my side, firstly, I want to thank Mr. Otto and Mr. Clive Africa for helping me in my ward sanitizer house. My other question is, it was raised in the committees of last month that we should indicate where in wards, for etc., Mossel Bay, say Highway Park, Civic Park, where is the cases so that councillors can know, because councillors is moving around for service delivering issues in their wards. I saw on Facebook, like George is indicating per area where is their cases. If it is possible that other towns also can get something similar like that. And the people of Chrysalis, the 20 people, I saw them in Mossel Bay, but it's a while I don't see them here. Who monitor these people here? Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Elder Lady. Deputy Executive Meyer. Mr. Meyer?
Mr. Speaker, thank you. May I make a suggestion? And this is how I look at COVID-19. One person being infected is one person too many. If it's one case in Reebok, the whole of Mossel Bay should be worried, and the whole of Mossel Bay should abide by the regulations. So I don't want us to get bogged down like in which ward are these cases. If it's in your municipality, everyone must abide and everyone must be very careful. And then to come back to the question on which municipalities, I'm gonna Oudtshoorn in particular. So councillors, but for the purpose of us being district councillors, those who are seconded here, go and double check with your municipalities. Look for proof, confirm with us, and we will then take it from there.
Thank you very much, Executive Mayor. Can we wrap up those two reports, two items? Please. From my side, may I request, Gerard? I don't see your face any longer, but I think you're still around. And thank heaven for that, that you are still around with, as well as Mr. Africa. There's just one thing that that I really think we can change. It's not criticism. Now I read reports and I see number of cases passed on. It's not a number of cases. It's number of persons. A person instead of a case. If I may ask that in future we refer to people and persons instead of cases, because what we're dealing here with is real. It's not criticism. We must never get bogged down in figures. It's not figures. It's people. But thanks a lot for all the good work, and I really appreciate from my side, from the chair, that what you're doing is excellent. And thank you for leading the way, Mr. Africa and Gerard and everybody concerned, Thank you, Mr. Mayor. May we conclude those two items then? Can I get a nod or a thumbs up?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'd like to make a proposal on the next item.
Wait.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with your indulgence to the councillors, the next two items, F2 and F3, has got to do with the waste and everything that's got to do with our landfill site. Mr. Speaker, and these are items for noting. May I propose, Mr. Speaker, that we don't discuss the merits of these two items. We note it as is because there are legal connotations. We all aware that we've hit a snag with this project. And this coming Friday, Mr. Speaker and councillors, there will be an engagement with all role players of the Triple P. And probably out of that engagement, Mr. Speaker, we will then have to reserve our rights, because this is a matter that will have to do with a contract law. Somebody will be in breach of contract in terms of the dilemma that we face with, and probably then after Friday's meeting or engagement, then we can have an in-committee and also probably, Mr. Speaker, a public statement made in terms of what is happening regarding the waste within the garden route. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Executive Mayor. If need be, we can call a special council meeting if need be. But I think we're in good hands, Executive Mayor, with you and our municipal manager, as well as our legal team. I think we're in good.
Speaker?
Yes, we must be.
Is the Strato Speaker?
Speaker?
It's the municipal manager.
Yes, sir.
Tati, would you like to come in?
Yes, Speaker, just on the one item in supporting the mayor, the endorsement of the third generation integrated waste plan. I think the mayor is correct. If we can, the council can just note that endorsement, and then and that is on, that one is finished, it's done. Then we note the contents of the PPP1 in the understanding that the mayor has explained that there will be follow-ups in committee regarding the way forward. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Municipal Manager. That's the way forward. Do we all
Speaker.
agree?
Speaker.
One at a time.
Speaker.
Bito.
Yes, Speaker, I'm not violently opposed to the suggestion and the proposal by the mayor and later with the support of the municipal manager. But I thought this could be a better platform, saying to it that they will be engaging into this meeting in the coming days. And so for us, or we should create some few issues for clarity that will better equip them on the engagement of Friday meeting. So I thought that one should raise that.
Thank you. Is that Councilman Mapitisa? Can I request perhaps, Executive Mayor, I know that you communicate regularly with us by means of WhatsApp, whatever the case may be. I'm sure that we can be kept up to speed. You will do that as always. By always, we appreciate that. So that is the arrangement. We don't have to repeat that. That is what we currently experience, and we appreciate that. Can we accept that as a way forward? Proposal? Executive Mayor made the proposal. Seconder?
I will second, Speaker.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Can I please ask everybody in chamber, wherever you are, just to stand up for 5 seconds? Just 5 seconds. Staan net bietjie op. Dat weet jou brein, hy is nog daar. Ek weet, dis tyd.
Can we also move around, Speaker?
That's nice.
Usendlini nakho wena.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We are now, am I correct in saying G1? That's a progress report for the Roads Department for the financial year 2019-2020, pages 335 to 336. Any input? G1. Councillor Spies. Councillor Spies, Alderman van der Werven. Which one is first? Alderman van der Werven.
Speaker, I'm not going to waste much time on this item. I just want to say, I want to request a report back on the progress regarding the agency services, where we are the agency, but we've got no say. And we have requested this item many times that there be political interference, because, Speaker, I don't see the purpose of us being allocated the roads if we've got no say. Speaker, it's the same old song that I'm singing every time, but surely, Speaker, it seems there's no urgency regarding this. And whatever reports come to us from the road, Speaker, it's not our report. It's a report from the province, and they are instructing what must be done and what must not be done, and we have no say. Going, gone.
Thank you, Alderman van der Werven. Councillor Spies. Councillor Spies. I'm sure that he went to fetch a cup of coffee.
There's no more spies here.
Thank you. Executive Mayor?
And Mr. Speaker, I would then suggest that we go with what's in front of us.
Thank you very much, Alderman Boyson. Executive Mayor, from my side, can we please say this loud and clear? And I hope everybody's listening. Our roads department, technical services, I think is the best. They are the best. You know, I'm a ward councillor. I've got a huge ward, Ward 7 in Mossel Bay. It's more than 1,200 square kilometers with various towns, Herbertstown, Baseplaas, Vleesbaai, Bochumsbaai. And when I call, when I send an email, when I will send a WhatsApp, I get almost an immediate response. And I've got baie moeilike, I've got very difficult farmers in the region, Gondwana, Bartelsfontein, all those areas. When I ask, please, can you assist with this gravel road? Can you do this? I almost get an immediate response. And from my side, I sincerely would like to say thank you so much for your kind attention. Time, yes, every time, albeit on a Saturday, Sunday, for responses. From my side, from the chair side, I would really like to congratulate and thanks the roads department for what they're doing within the region. It's extremely challenging. If you look at the kilometers they must cover in terms of roads, it's incredible. It's almost like as big as the Free State province itself. So I think as council, we'd just like to say thank you very much for all the hard work and for the quick responses, every one of them, all the people that work there as well. And please, Councillor Spies, convey our sincere appreciation for that. Can we move on?
Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Councillor Spies. We are now on H2, renewal of lease agreement for cell phone operators, pages 356 to 381. Sorry? H1. Oh, H1. Yep. Let me put on my other glasses. Perhaps that will work. Yep, it's H1. We've just dealt with G1, section H. Report on the activities of the Garden Route Economic Cluster in response to the... We've dealt with that, haven't we? Not? No, we haven't dealt with that. H1, report on the activities of the Garden Route Economic Cluster in response to the COVID-19 crisis. Crises, pages 337 to 355. My apologies, I only read COVID-19 crisis. Report on the activities of the Garden Route Economic Cluster in response to COVID-19. Any input? Nine? I can see, ek hoop nie julle hoor hoe maak my magie so agter die speaker nie, agter die microphone. My grom lekker so.
Speaker, we take note of the item.
Thank you, Councillor.
Speaker, Councillor De Vries's hand is up.
Thank you, Alderman Vries. Thank you, Alderman van der Hoeven, for assisting. Alderman De Vries.
Speaker, I can see that we are in a bit in a hurry, but let me just express my appreciation, and I think to the MM and the executive manager and the manager LED. They are doing exceptional work behind the scenes in this cluster. I was privileged to one or two of the meetings in my capacity in my other life now, in terms of the services sector, because we are also busy with an essential economic stimulus project for SMEs. So I just want to say that the work that they're doing behind the scenes every week is actually sterling, and we should, it's commendable, and that we must congratulate them for the work they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alderman De Vries. It's to the big guy to my left, the strong man, and to one of the tallest, most beautiful ladies that works with tourism. Prachtige lang vrou, beautiful. Thank you. I think we all agree, and let's give to those two. Amen. To you, let's give them applause. Even if it's late. Kom ons klap aan, man. Thank you, Alderman.
Just quickly say also, the MM has taken the lead to change the direction. And we, in terms of this item, It was a phenomenal intervention from the municipal manager together with the department. They are on a new direction now. Our full support. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alderman Gericke. I think we all echo that sentiment. Thank you so much for that. And thank you again, Tati Mondistrato. Thank you.
Speak. I forgot Mr. Menzi. He is also one of the grandchildren behind us.
Yeah.
And he understood why we went on all the months in this council. They went out to think out of the box, a new strategy. We commend you for this, Mr. Menzi. Everybody, thank you.
Stem samen, al die groot manne en die groot vrouens. Thank you. H2, renewal of lease agreement for cell phone operators, pages 356 to 381. Orange still haven't joined us. I see that the French firms also going to get active within Africa. There you've got it. H2, any input? Thank you, Alderman Gericke.
No. The thing is, this item is coming here for many months now. You must conclude this item now. The mayor must see that this item is concluded now, that these guys are paying and that the right things are done, sir. Thank you very much indeed, sir. It's a long meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Gericke. Yep, I'm listening.
Councillor De Vries.
Alderman De Vries.
Speaker, just in terms on page 361, in the recommendation where we say that we must enter into a long-term agreement, in the body of the report, there's a reference made that we should not, MTN, Vodacom, and these organizations or companies have in the past subleased without our permission, and we actually have lost revenue. Now, as you indicated earlier, that at times we should put actually some of those recommendations or suggestions within our recommendations. So I just want to ask the should we not include that as part of our recommendation on page 361?
Thank you, Alderman.
Speaker, that is correct. And in fact, we will specifically provide in the lease agreements themselves that these persons are not allowed to sublet our properties for whatever purpose. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Ebem, for your legal mind. I think, what about session? Do we also disallow session, or is that not constitutional?
May I put that right?
You're welcome. Thank you, Alderman Emem. Executive Mayor, I've noted you. Please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I agree that they should not sublet, but what like the MM just said, they should not sublet for any purposes. I'd like us to be careful on that. They should not sublet without our permission. There might be a sublet that will bring us more revenue.
That's fine.
Agree, Speaker.
Thank you. Agree. H3, am I correct? Advocate? I'm very proud of this gentleman next to me. I've read his input that he's making at various meetings, even IT. I didn't know that he was also a specialist in IT issues, but I read the report. Also, your participation, thanks for that, Advocate. Thank you. H3, request for housing accreditation level 1. Pages 382, 498. Executive Mayor, thank you, Alderman Boyson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the last item and I will be like a bullet train. Mr. Speaker, this is another initiative and it's something that is not placed in front of us for the first time. We'll remember right in the beginning, I think 2017, we did with the previous MEC, we did embark on us getting involved into the gap housing market. We went to Salga, we went all over, and we were supported in that. But unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, that that was never completed in terms of finalizing everything. Now there's now a new dispensation, and we have revived that item, Mr. Speaker. Hence, we're having this in front of us, and there is an appetite at provincial level. And Mr. Speaker, normally these kind of initiatives from us, they make the B municipalities nervous. And I want to say to all the B municipalities, they should not be nervous. We want to get into this space so that we can intervene when necessary and so that we can assist. We know that not all B municipalities need our assistance, but we need to occupy the space, Mr. Speaker, so that the other municipalities that does need our assistance, that we have the accreditation to do so. And on the same note, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to say to all the B municipalities, now that we're dealing with a housing issue, this is the last financial year of provincial government where they would assist B municipalities to acquire title deeds. Please go back to your local municipalities and push them to apply for title deeds for our communities. As of the new financial year, municipalities will have to pay out of their own pocket. Province won't fund title deeds because national is going to stop that. So please rush your B municipalities for title deeds. And this is exactly why this item is in front of us. So going forward, that we can intervene when necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not allowed to say anything, but I think it's part of redress economic empowerment to our people. I mean, the old person, like in 80 years, that still cannot participate in the economy because he doesn't have a title deed to the property that he owns or that his father owned. But thank you for that input. Thank you, Rihanna. My apologies for making that comment. That's the way I feel. Thank you, Rihanna and Alderman Gericke.
Councillor van der Hoeven.
Alderman van der Hoeven, thank you.
And then Bito Conference Room.
And then Bito Conference Facility, I think it's Councillor Mapitisa. But it is first, please assist me. Councillor van der Hoeven, Alderman Gericke.
De Vries.
Councillor De Vries. Thank you. In that order, can we proceed? Thank you.
Who's first speaker?
Yep. Yes.
Who's first speaker?
Let me shoot Alderman and then so that you can cover my potholes.
Please do.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I think that's a very progressive move, Alderman. And for us, if once again, my favorite point of being one district, one plan model, and we are a pilot in this region, we must take the lead. And so that after the lockdown process of COVID-19, when national comes down and realizes some of the programs that were put on hold because of the COVID could find us ready to take up that process. What I want to check, Executive Mayor, is that what has been with this whole approach of us for accreditation, what would have been the relationship between us being an accredited Elandriga municipality together with the National Housing Agency?
Diabolela, Councillor. Alderman Boyson, Executive Mayor. I didn't forget the Councillor, Alderman as well. Please do. Thank you, Alderman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on Councillor Mapitisa's point, there is a tendency again, Councillor Mapitisa, where we need to revisit the B municipalities because we again experiencing that there's a tug of war for properties. Now we're saying we want to assist them with our properties within their jurisdictions. And there's a sense that they want to grab those properties back again, and we're not going to allow that.
Speaker.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Can I respond directly?
I still haven't.
I did not get my question.
Yes, can I respond, Speaker, with your permission?
Yes, please, Municipal Manager.
Thank you, Speaker. The relationship with us and the HDA, you will note, Speaker, that the HDA focuses on mainly properties, that is land parcels that must be acquired for housing development. We are in very good negotiations with HDA, specifically the CEO and the CFO. If it was not for COVID-19, they would have already visited the garden route. So you don't report those things in council, but when there are concrete engagements that need council's approval or noting, we'll bring that. So HDA will come from the property side or the land side, and the accreditation will then assist us to play in that space as the mayor has explained. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, MM. I can just say, when I see what HDA does with our national minister on television, those beautiful, beautiful flats that's being built, no longer matchboxes that are being built I think it's in Tshwane. Beautiful residential units that are being built. Thank you, Alderman van der Hoeven.
Thank you, Speaker. I just want to say I totally agree with the input from Councillor Mapatisa. I just want to say that the mayor indicated that B municipalities should not be nervous. I think they should, because we can outscore them and show them how to perform in this regard. And why do we only apply for a level 1? We must apply for a level 10.
I think it's version 1 of level 1.
We're taking it one step at a time.
Version 1 of level 1. Thank you, Alderman Gericke.
Yeah, just in short, Speaker, the item is supported and commended. It's a progressive item and a progressive move in the right direction. The B municipalities do not live up to the supply of housing. They do not, they cannot, for one reason or the other. Also, the land in the possession of the district municipality may be, fitting for a program like this, assisting people. Whatever model you want to put up, we are supporting this. We just warn against the politicization of providing houses for people. It's a much needed commodity. Let us not politicize it. We see, I know that you are sensitive, maybe you are under instruction, but we see, yes, I can see you on instruction, they whisper in your ear. We can see that politicians are now doing the work that the administration should actually be doing. It's the work of the administration to hand over title deeds. It's not the work of a minister or a politician. So let us not politicize. We are in support. Thank you very much.
Work of politicians.
Thank you. Can we support this? This is unanimous. Algemeen aanvaar. Thank you. I get thumbs up everywhere. Thank you again for the initiative, Executive Mayor MM. Thank you. We are now section E6. Various human resources policies for approval. Proposed.
Yes, sir, I propose on the following reason. We have spent many hours on workshopping those policies. We have read through it. I have read through it. I'm satisfied. I propose. Thank you very much indeed.
Second.
I will second Councillor Gericke.
Dan kry ek 'n kans om Gericke te second.
Nee man, Rowan moet nie so wees.
Please, jy moet net onthou jy only hotel is aan naby jou.
May I on this just really thank everyone. You know, the workshop that we held was tough, was really tough. And we really had to take some barocas to keep our keep our thoughts and our concentration up to standard. It was necessary. And I really plead with this council in support of the administration, Ms. Trix, Holzhausen, MM, all the other heads of departments, senior managers, my good advocate next to me, please, when we convene a workshop, it's worth it. It's worth it. provide your input, let's do it. Let's review those policies that needs to be reviewed. Let's give you our input, and also my thanks goes to Mr. Janke and the unions for their contributions, for their cooperation, and for their input to take the region. Remember that the municipality consists of 3 elements. It's the council, it's the administration, and the community. And I would like to thank the staff that forms not a nie minderwaardige leg nie. You are like spheres of government. You are not a tier within the municipality. We are, as you know, when we see Alderman Rosina Reuters, what's up? People's level. We are all on the same level, and I would like to thank everyone for participating in those workshops. Let's do it. All the executive managers, bring those policies to us. Let's do the workshops. Let's review them. Let's do it. And I really would like to thank you, I think we made some progress with regards to these policies. Let's proceed. Let's do it again. And on this note, I don't know if anybody would like to say something more, but I cannot, due to the social distance that we must keep, I cannot invite you for a keldertjie or a drankie, a sunset one, or a coffee or something. But let me please say thank you very much to each and every councillor, every staff member, executive mayor, all councillors, all our precious staff. Now, what's lovely about these masks, you still see the eyes smiling. You don't need to see the mouth. What I'm seeing is eyes smiling all around. And I hope our new councillors, please, I know that, I really trust that you are really feeling welcome. And this is
greet everyone, but you forget the alderman.
Thank you, Alderman van der Hoeven. That concludes our meeting. Can I get a proposal or seconder that we adjourn this meeting? Of course.
I propose, Speaker.
Thank you, Councillor.
And I second, Speaker.
Thank you. Travel safe.
Speaker, everybody is very, very in a hurry now.
Die potte ruik nou lekker nou. Kos is nou halfpad klaar.
Ek het nie gesien dat iemand 'n eentjie gebruik hier tydens die meeting nie.
Speaker, bye.
Nou, allemaal.
Bye.
Night speak.
Bye.
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 Bye,
Whoa.